A millionaire asks a homeless woman to be his date at his ex-wife's wedding, but what happens? Gabriel Hayes was sitting in his large, dark wood office, staring at the computer screen with an incredulous expression. The email he had just read was a stab in the chest, a cruel reminder of everything he had lost. "Gabriel, I hope you're well. I'm writing to inform you that I'll be marrying Adrian next month. I'd like you to bring Lily to the wedding, as she has the right to take part in this important moment in my life. It would be nice if you came too. We can try to be civilized for her sake. Vanessa." He read the email again, hoping that the words would change. But they didn't. It was real. Vanessa, his ex-wife, the woman he had loved and who had betrayed him with Adrian, the man who had been his business partner and best friend, wanted him to witness the celebration of their union. Gabriel clenched his fists, trying to contain his anger. He closed his laptop tightly, leaned his elbows on the table, and rubbed his face with his hands. The thought of facing Vanessa and Adrian in such an intimate setting was unbearable. However, there was Lily. His 8-year-old daughter was the only reason he would even consider accepting the invitation. The next morning, Gabriel woke up before dawn. He prepared breakfast for Lily, as he did every morning, and called her downstairs. She appeared smiling with her hair still messy and ran to the table. "Good morning, Daddy." "Good morning, darling," Gabriel replied, forcing a smile. While Lily ate her cereal and talked animatedly about a school project, Gabriel just watched her. She was the reason he kept going despite everything. He knew that Vanessa's wedding wasn't just an affront to him. It was an event that would affect Lily in ways she didn't yet understand. "Come on, I'll take you to school," he said, grabbing his car keys. The drive to school was routine. Lily hummed songs she'd made up, and Gabriel responded with distracted murmurs, lost in his thoughts. When they arrived, he parked near the entrance, and Lily opened the door before he could say anything. "Look out, Lily!" he shouted, but it was too late. Lily jumped out of the car without looking around, and at that instant, a vehicle came speeding up, about to hit her. Gabriel felt the world slow down. "Lily!" Before he could get out of the car, a figure appeared out of nowhere. A thin woman in shabby clothes and disheveled hair ran up and pulled Lily backwards, narrowly getting her out of the way of the car. The vehicle passed with a deafening roar of tires without slowing down. Gabriel ran up to them, his heart pounding in his chest. Lily was frightened, but unharmed. The woman, on the other hand, seemed out of breath, as if she had used up all her strength at that moment. "My God, are you all right?" asked Gabriel, kneeling down beside them. I am," said the woman, breathing hard. She looked at Lily, who stared at her with wide eyes. "Are you all right, little one?" Lily nodded, clinging to her father. "You saved me," she said in awe. Gabriel looked at the woman more closely. She was young, but looked worn down by life. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and her brown eyes carried a mixture of tiredness and pain. "You've hurt yourself," he said, pointing to the woman's ankle, which was visibly swollen. "It's nothing," she replied, trying to get up but staggering. Gabriel caught her before she fell. "You're not well, let me help you." The woman shook her head. "You don't have to. I just did what anyone would do." "Not everyone would do what you did," Gabriel insisted. "Please, come with me. Let's go to the doctor, it's the least I can do." The woman hesitated, but Lily took her hand. "Please come. My daddy can help you." Something in Lily's tone seemed to break the woman's resistance. "Okay," she said at last. Gabriel helped her into the car, and Lily sat next to her in the back seat, watching her curiously. "What's your name?" asked Lily. "Zoe," replied the woman with a shy smile. "Zoe, you were very brave," said Lily. Gabriel drove to a private clinic, worried about Zoe's condition. While they were waiting for the doctor, he noticed that she was holding her arms crossed against her body, as if she was trying to disappear. "Do you have anywhere to go after this?" he asked, breaking the silence. Zoe looked at him, surprised by the question. Not exactly." "Then come with us," he said without thinking. "At least until you recover." Zoe's eyes widened. "I can't accept that." "You saved my daughter," said Gabriel firmly. "Please let me do something for you." She hesitated for a long moment, but eventually agreed. After the doctor had treated her sprained ankle, Gabriel took her home. When they arrived, Zoe seemed uncomfortable with the size of the mansion. Lily ran inside, but Zoe stood in the doorway, as if considering turning around. "Come in, please," said Gabriel, holding the door open. Zoe entered, but her eyes scanned her surroundings cautiously. Gabriel could tell she was suspicious, but he didn't ask her anything. Instead, he asked the housekeeper to show her the guest room where she could rest. Later, while Zoe slept, Gabriel sat in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened. Something about that woman intrigued him deeply. Who was she? Why did she seem to carry so much weight on her shoulders? He knew that there was much more to Zoe's story than met the eye. And somehow he felt that fate had just put her in his life, for a reason he still didn't understand. The next morning brought a strange feeling for Gabriel. He walked down the stairs of the mansion with slow steps, still processing the events of the previous day. The idea of a stranger, a woman clearly scarred by life's difficulties sleeping in his house, was something he had never imagined. But at the same time, Gabriel couldn't ignore what Zoe had done for Lily. In the kitchen, Lily was at the table laughing as Zoe and the housekeeper prepared pancakes. Gabriel stood in the doorway, watching the scene for a few seconds. Zoe was wearing a large, comfortable shirt that he had left for her. Her hair, now tied up in an awkward bun, was clean, but her eyes still had that tired gleam. "Good morning," he said, attracting their attention. "Good morning, Daddy," exclaimed Lily, her mouth full of pancake. "Zoe knows how to make delicious pancakes." Zoe turned to him with a shy smile. "I thought I should help in some way." Gabriel shook his head. "You didn't have to. You're here to recover, not to work." Zoe looked uncomfortable with the answer, but didn't say anything. Gabriel sat at the table watching the interaction between her and Lily. His daughter seemed charmed by the woman. It was rare for Lily to open up so quickly to someone, especially after their separation. After breakfast, Gabriel asked to speak to Zoe in private. They went to the office where he closed the door and sat down opposite her. "Zoe, I wanted to thank you again for what you did yesterday," he began. "I don't know how I could have coped if something had happened to Lily." "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone would do," she replied, looking away. Gabriel leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "The truth is, I don't know exactly how to go from here. You clearly don't have anywhere to go back to, and I don't have the heart to just let you go." Zoe's eyes widened. "Gabriel, I appreciate everything you're doing, but I can't stay here forever." He nodded, as if he'd expected that answer. "I know that, but what if I could offer you something more? Something to help you get back on your feet?" Zoe frowned, confused. "Zoe, Lily really liked you. She can't stop talking about how amazing you are, and that's rare. Ever since her mother left, Lily finds it hard to connect with people. I was wondering, would you be willing to babysit her?" Silence hung between them. Zoe seemed stunned by the offer, her eyes moving as if searching the air for an answer. "I know it's not what you expected, but it would be a job," Gabriel continued. "You'd have a place to stay, and you wouldn't have to worry about the bills. Besides, I trust you. You saved my daughter, and I think you'd do her a lot of good." Zoe took a deep breath, as if weighing up all the options. "Gabriel, I have no experience. I've never been a nanny before. You have what matters. A good heart," he said sincerely. "Think about it." After a long moment, Zoe finally nodded. "All right, I accept." Gabriel felt a weight come off his shoulders. It was as if he had finally done something right, something that could help not only Lily, but also Zoe. The days that followed brought a new energy to the mansion. Zoe quickly became an indispensable figure in Lily's life. They spent hours playing, laughing, and even cooking together. Not only did Lily adore Zoe, she also seemed to blossom under her presence. Gabriel, on the other hand, stood at a distance, watching. He couldn't deny that something about Zoe intrigued him deeply. She avoided talking about her past, always changing the subject when asked. But there were moments, small gaps, when Gabriel saw a deep sadness in her eyes, as if she carried a weight that no one else could understand. One evening, while Gabriel was going over documents in the office, Lily came running in holding a drawing. "Daddy, look what Zoe and I did," she said, showing him a sheet full of colors. Gabriel smiled. "It's beautiful, darling." Lily sat on his lap, still holding the drawing. "Daddy, why did Mommy leave?" The question hit Gabriel like a punch in the stomach. He hesitated before answering, choosing his words carefully. "Mom and I had problems, Lily, but she still loves you. That I know." Lily was silent for a few seconds, staring at the drawing. Zoe said that sometimes people leave, but that doesn't mean they don't love us. Gabriel felt a tightness in his chest. Zoe said that? Lily nodded. She's really nice, Dad. I wish she was our family. Gabriel didn't answer. He just hugged Lily, feeling a mixture of emotions that he couldn't decipher. A few days later, while they were having dinner, Gabriel realized that it was time to talk to Lily about Vanessa's wedding. He knew he couldn't avoid the subject any longer. Lily, I need to tell you something, he began, trying to keep his voice calm. The girl looked at him curiously, while Zoe, sitting next to her, also seemed interested. Your mother is getting married in a few weeks, said Gabriel, pausing to gauge Lily's reaction. To whom? She asked, frowning. Adrian, replied Gabriel, feeling the bitter taste of the words. Lily was silent for a moment. I'm going? Gabriel nodded. She wants you to be there. I'll take you. Lily said nothing but looked thoughtful. Zoe, on the other hand, kept her eyes fixed on her plate. Gabriel noticed her tension, but decided not to comment. That night, as Gabriel was going upstairs, he heard voices coming from Lily's room. He stopped in the hallway and peeked through the ajar door. Zoe was sitting on the bed, holding Lily's hand. Do you think it will be strange to see my mother get married? Asked Lily. Zoe hesitated before answering. Maybe a little. I don't know her, but I imagine she's quite pretty because you're so beautiful and you must look like her. I think you'll have a great time there. Gabriel felt a sense of relief. Zoe's words calmed Lily down, and in a way he was relieved too, because he knew this event would be tense. He went back to his room, his mind full of questions. Who was Zoe really? And why did he feel that somehow she was running away from something or someone? It was a clear morning, but inside the Hayes mansion a silent storm was brewing. Gabriel was sitting at the coffee table, reading his work emails on his cell phone, while Zoe and Lily were laughing together in the kitchen. The two had become practically inseparable over the last few weeks. Zoe seemed to bring a lightness that Gabriel couldn't offer Lily on his own, and he knew it. But at that moment, Gabriel felt the weight of Vanessa's invitation. The wedding was approaching, and just the thought of meeting her and Adrian made his stomach knot. Lily seemed excited, but Gabriel knew that, for a child, facing his mother in such a complex situation wouldn't be as simple as it seemed. Daddy! Lily ran into the living room with her usual energy, carrying a piece of bread with jam in her hands. Zoe was right behind her, smiling, but with the shy look that Gabriel already recognized. Yes, darling, he replied, trying to dispel the gloomy thoughts. I've been thinking, said Lily, with the tone of someone who was planning something big. That's never good, joked Gabriel, forcing a smile. Lily rolled her eyes, but continued. I want Zoe to go to the wedding with me. I want her to be with me the whole time. The sentence took Gabriel aback. He looked at Zoe, who immediately looked away, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. Lily, Zoe doesn't have to go. I'll be there with you, Gabriel replied, trying to sound firm. But it's not the same, Dad, insisted Lily. I'll feel safer if she goes. And I like it when Zoe's with me. Lily, began Gabriel, but she didn't let him finish. Please, Daddy, she said, her eyes now full of anticipation. I don't want to go without Zoe. Gabriel looked at Zoe again, who seemed frozen as if she wanted to disappear right then and there. He knew she didn't want to get involved in any of this, and honestly, he understood. Zoe? Asked Gabriel finally. I don't know, she replied hesitantly. I don't want to get in the way. You won't be in the way, said Lily, holding Zoe's hand tightly. Please come. Gabriel let out a sigh. He knew that once Lily got her head around something, it was hard to get her to change her mind. And deep down, he didn't want to disappoint her. Besides, part of him felt that Zoe's presence might make the situation a little more bearable. All right, he said at last. If Zoe's up for it, she can go. Lily jumped for joy, hugging Zoe, who still looked uncomfortable, but smiled shyly. It's going to be amazing. The three of us together. The following afternoon, Gabriel decided that Lily and Zoe needed appropriate wedding outfits. He drove them to an elegant shopping center, parking the car at the main entrance. I have some meetings to attend to, but I'll pick you up in a few hours, he said, looking at Zoe. Zoe nodded, holding Lily's hand as they walked into the mall. It's okay. I'll take care of her. Gabriel watched the two walk away, feeling a mixture of relief and worry. He trusted Zoe, but something about the idea of leaving them alone still bothered him. Inside the mall, Lily was euphoric. She dragged Zoe from store to store, trying on dresses, shoes, and accessories. Zoe, on the other hand, seemed uncomfortable with the luxurious surroundings. The price tags made her nervous, and she constantly looked around as if expecting to be thrown out at any moment. "Zoe, look at this," said Lily, holding up a blue dress with sparkly details. "It's beautiful, Lily," replied Zoe, smiling. "What about you? You have to try something on too," insisted Lily. Zoe shook her head. "Oh no, I'm fine." "No, you're not," said Lily, crossing her arms. "You're going to the wedding and you need to look beautiful." Zoe tried to argue, but Lily was stubborn. Before she knew it, she was inside a fitting room, holding an elegant dress that Lily had chosen for her. Zoe looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize herself. The soft fabric, the delicate details. It was the first time in years that she had worn something that made her feel beautiful. Lily knocked on the door. "Let me see. Let me see." Zoe opened the door shyly and Lily grinned from ear to ear. "You look amazing, Zoe." Zoe laughed despite herself, but Lily's happiness was contagious. "Thanks, Lily." As they walked through the mall laughing and carrying their bags, Zoe noticed something. A man standing at the entrance to a store seemed to be watching them. He was tall, with a serious expression, and didn't seem to blend in with the other shoppers. Zoe tried to ignore him, but felt his gaze following her every move. Her discomfort grew, and she gripped Lily's hand tighter. "Zoe, are you okay?" asked Lily, noticing the change in her behavior. "Yes, darling." "Everything's fine," replied Zoe with a forced smile. But she wasn't. Something about that man bothered her deeply. He looked familiar, but she couldn't remember where. "Shall we get some ice cream?" asked Lily excitedly. "Sure," replied Zoe, trying to divert her attention from the uncomfortable presence. As the two of them walked away, the man remained still, his eyes fixed on Zoe. He picked up the phone, dialed a number, and said something quietly, without taking his eyes off her. When Gabriel returned to pick them up, Zoe was visibly tense. Lily, on the other hand, was beaming, telling him about the dresses and the stores they had visited. "Was it fun?" asked Gabriel as they drove home. "It was amazing," replied Lily, oblivious to Zoe's silence in the back seat. Gabriel cast a quick glance at Zoe through the rearview mirror. "Zoe, is everything all right?" "Yes," she said, without much conviction. But Gabriel knew something was wrong. Zoe seemed distracted, almost frightened. He decided not to press her but made a mental note to ask her later. That night, while Lily slept, Zoe stood on the balcony, looking up at the starry sky. Gabriel approached, bringing her a cup of tea. "You seem distant," he said, handing her the cup. Zoe held the tea with trembling hands. "It's been a long day." Gabriel sensed that there was more behind that answer, but he didn't insist. He stood beside her in silence, staring at the horizon. However, what he didn't know was that at that moment someone was watching them from the street, hidden in the shadows. And Zoe knew it. She could feel it, but decided to go upstairs and get some rest. The night was silent in the Hayes mansion. The only light came from the living room, where Gabriel was sitting with a glass of whiskey in his hand. Zoe was in the guest room, and Lily was already fast asleep. Gabriel couldn't get Zoe's strange behavior in the car and at home out of his mind. Something was bothering her, and he was sure it was more serious than she was letting on. Suddenly, the sound of the intercom cut through the silence, echoing through the house. Gabriel frowned. It was late, and no one was supposed to show up at this hour. He got up, feeling a twinge of worry, and went to the intercom control panel. "Who is it?" a man's voice answered, firm and direct. "I'm looking for Zoe Hartman." Gabriel's heart raced. He looked at the camera and saw the man he had never seen before. He was dressed impeccably, but his expression was hard, almost menacing. Gabriel pressed the button again. "Who are you? What do you want with her?" "That's a personal matter," replied the man, in a tone that brooked no argument. Gabriel felt the tension grow. He hesitated for a moment, but decided to call Zoe. He climbed the stairs quickly and knocked on the guest room door. "Zoe, there's someone here. He's looking for you." Zoe opened the door slowly. Her face paled as she heard Gabriel's words. She seemed to know exactly who it was. "Is he out there?" she asked, her voice low and trembling. "Yes. Who is he? What's going on?" Zoe ran her hands through her hair, visibly nervous. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure, and followed Gabriel to the intercom. When she saw the man's image on the screen, she closed her eyes, as if preparing for battle. She pressed the button to speak. "What do you want?" "Zoe, I was sent by your father. He wants you to come home. You know you can't keep running away like this." Gabriel's eyes widened in disbelief. "Father?" He looked at Zoe, who seemed ready to explode. "I've already told him I'm not going back," she replied, her voice now firmer. "Tell him to stop looking for me. I'm fine where I am." The man shook his head, visibly impatient. "Zoe, don't make this harder. Going home is the best thing for you. Please reconsider." "I'll go to his house tomorrow to talk to him, but for now go away," she said, cutting off the conversation. Gabriel looked at Zoe with a mixture of concern and curiosity as she walked away from the intercom. She looked exhausted, as if all the energy had been drained from her. "Zoe, what was that?" he asked, finally breaking the silence. She took a deep breath and crossed her arms, as if trying to protect herself from something invisible. "I knew it would happen sooner or later." "Who are you?" asked Gabriel, his voice low. "And why is someone here in the middle of the night looking for you?" Zoe hesitated, but finally looked at Gabriel. There was something in his gaze that seemed to beg for understanding. "My father is, well, he's a very rich man. A millionaire, in fact," she began, her voice trembling. "He has a huge company, a mansion even bigger than this one, and a lifestyle I can't stand." Gabriel said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "My mother died 2 years ago," Zoe explained, her eyes shining with tears that she tried to hold back. "She was everything to me. When she left, I thought my father and I would be closer, that we would share the grief, that we would try to get through it together. But he just started bringing women home, a different one every day." The pain in her voice was palpable. Gabriel felt a tightness in his chest as he listened to her. "At first, I tried to ignore it. I thought it was his way of dealing with the pain, you know? But then the parties started. Big parties with lots of drinking, women. It was as if he was trying to erase everything my mother stood for. It was disrespectful to her grief, to her memory, and to what I felt." Zoe paused as if she needed to catch her breath. Gabriel remained silent, trying to process everything she was saying. "I fought with him several times. I tried to make him understand how it hurt me, how I felt invisible, disposable. But he didn't care. He said I was too young to understand. And then, one night, he threw a party so big it was like a circus. Drunk women in every corner, people I'd never seen in my life invading the space where my mother and I used to live. That was the last straw." Gabriel swallowed. He could feel the intensity of Zoe's pain. "I packed my bags and left. I didn't want to be in that place anymore. I'd rather live on the street than spend another day in that house, watching my father turn the life I knew into a horror show." "And he didn't try to stop you?" asked Gabriel, still stunned by everything he'd heard. "Of course he tried," replied Zoe, with a bitter smile. "But not out of any real concern. He just wanted to keep up appearances. He sent security guards, employees, even family friends to meet me. They always say the same things. 'Come home, Zoe. That's where you belong.' But they don't understand. I'd rather do anything than go back to that environment." Gabriel was silent for a long moment. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to urge her to reconsider, but he knew it went deeper than he could have imagined. "What now?" he finally asked. Zoe looked up at him, determination shining on her face. "I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Tell him once again that I'm not going back. Maybe finally he'll leave me alone." Gabriel nodded slowly. He wanted to protect her, but he knew that this was a battle she had to face alone. "If you need anything, I'm here," he said, his voice full of sincerity. Zoe smiled, a small, sad smile. "Thank you, Gabriel, for everything." As she went back to her room, Gabriel stood in the living room looking out of the window. The thought of Zoe facing a powerful man like her father alone bothered him deeply. Something inside him told him that this wouldn't end as easily as she had imagined, and he was beginning to feel something for her that he hadn't even imagined. Outside, the streetlights shone, but darkness seemed closer than ever. The next morning, Zoe woke up early. It had been a long night, her thoughts flooded with memories and feelings she preferred to keep buried. After a quick chat with Gabriel at breakfast, she went to her room and picked up the cell phone he had lent her. Sitting on the bed, she took a deep breath before dialing the number. She knew this conversation would be difficult, but there was no avoiding it. The phone rang a few times before a deep voice answered on the other end. "Zoe?" asked the man directly. "Yes, it's me," she replied, trying to stay calm. "Thank God. Are you all right? Where are you? Why haven't you come back yet?" Zoe closed her eyes for a moment, trying to organize her thoughts. "I'm fine, Dad. Don't worry, I'm staying with a family who helped me. They're good to me and I'm working." "Working?" he asked with a tone of incredulity. "Doing what?" Zoe hesitated. She knew this would shock him. "I'm working as a nanny. They have a little daughter, and I look after her." The silence on the other end was fraught with tension. Finally, the father replied in a colder tone, "Babysitting? Zoe, you're my daughter. You don't have to work, let alone babysit. That's absurd." "Dad, please try to understand," said Zoe, her voice pleading. "I need this time. I need to feel useful, to do something on my own. I'm not ready to go back, and being here with them is better than staying on the street." The man sighed heavily. "Zoe, you know you can go home at any time. You don't have to go through this, but all right, I understand and I'll give you your time. If that's what you think you need right now, fine. Just promise me you'll keep in touch." "I promise," she said, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt. "And Zoe, be careful always." "I will, Dad." When the call ended, Zoe put her cell phone away and took a deep breath. It was only a small step, but somehow she felt that she had faced a part of her demons. The days passed quickly, and Vanessa's wedding arrived. The house was in a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Lily, excited, couldn't stop talking about the event, while Gabriel tried to hide his discomfort at the idea of facing Vanessa and Adrian. That morning, Zoe and Lily left early to spend the day at a beauty salon. Lily was radiant, excited to be dressed up like a princess, as she put it. Zoe, on the other hand, was nervous. It wasn't just the event that was making her tense. It was the idea of being in such a luxurious and sophisticated environment again, something she had avoided since running away from her father's house. In the salon, Lily was surrounded by hairdressers and makeup artists who transformed her into a real doll. Her hair was braided with small shiny ornaments, and she wore a white dress with floral details specially chosen by Gabriel. Zoe, at Lily's insistence, was also taken care of. Her hair was styled into soft curls, and the makeup highlighted her delicate features, making her look even more stunning. She put on the elegant dress they had bought at the mall, the first new piece of clothing she had worn in years. When she looked in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. "You look beautiful, Zoe," said Lily, her eyes shining with admiration. Zoe smiled, even though she still felt out of place. "Thank you, Lily. You look stunning too. I'm sure everyone will be delighted with you." Meanwhile, Gabriel was at home, sitting on the sofa in the living room. He was wearing an impeccable suit, but he couldn't concentrate on anything other than the whirlwind of emotions he was feeling. Vanessa's wedding was a vivid reminder of his betrayal, and he wasn't sure how he was going to deal with it. As the clock struck early afternoon, Gabriel heard the sound of the front door being unlocked. He stood up and turned around, prepared to see Lily, but nothing could have prepared him for what he saw. Lily entered first, running towards him with a radiant smile. Her white dress sparkled in the daylight, and she looked like a little princess. Gabriel bent down to hug her. "Daddy, look how I look," she said, spinning around to show him her dress. "You look beautiful, darling. Absolutely beautiful," he replied, with a sincere smile. But then, as Gabriel looked up, his smile faltered for a moment. Zoe was standing in the doorway, and the sight of her left him speechless. The elegant blue dress hugged her figure perfectly, and her curls fell softly over her shoulders. There was something in her posture, in her shy gaze, that made Zoe seem an almost unreal vision. Gabriel blinked a few times, trying to hide the impact it had made on him. "And you look amazing too," he said, his voice lower than he expected. Zoe smiled shyly, looking away. "Thank you." For a moment, Gabriel stood still, lost in thought. He couldn't understand why he was so affected by that scene. It was as if something had changed in Zoe, or perhaps it was he who was beginning to see her differently. "Come on, Dad, we're going to be late," said Lily, pulling him by the hand and breaking the moment. Gabriel nodded, trying to regain his composure. As they left the house, he couldn't help thinking how much Zoe's presence was beginning to mean more to him than he was willing to admit. But at the same time, he knew that the day had only just begun, and that Vanessa's wedding would bring with it challenges he couldn't yet foresee. The ballroom was stunning, a true spectacle of luxury and sophistication. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, illuminating the space with an almost magical glow. The tables were impeccably decorated with white and gold flower arrangements, while the elegantly dressed guests chatted in small groups, laughing and toasting with glasses of champagne. Gabriel walked in hand with Lily, and Zoe followed close behind, trying to go unnoticed. But that was impossible. As soon as the three of them crossed the threshold, all eyes in the hall turned to them. The impact was instantaneous. Lily looked like a little princess, with her impeccable white dress and delicately braided hair. Gabriel, as always, exuded a powerful and sophisticated presence in his perfectly tailored black suit. But it was Zoe who really stole the show. She looked stunning. The blue dress elegantly highlighted her figure, while her soft curls framed her face in an almost ethereal way. Her shy posture only added to her charm, giving the impression of a young woman who unknowingly dominated the room with her presence alone. Murmurs broke out among the guests. "Who is she?" whispered a woman to her husband. "Is she Gabriel's new girlfriend? She's so young and beautiful," commented another. Gabriel noticed the buzz around them and glanced at Zoe. He knew what everyone was thinking, but he didn't bother correcting anyone. A part of him, perhaps, enjoyed seeing the reactions, especially when he imagined Vanessa overhearing the comments. Vanessa, in fact, was on the other side of the hall, watching the trio intently. Dressed in an impeccable wedding dress that highlighted her mature beauty, she stood next to Adrian, who was chatting animatedly with some friends. But Vanessa wasn't listening to a word he was saying. Her gaze was fixed on Gabriel, and more specifically, on Zoe. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Vanessa had always been proud of her looks, her elegance, but seeing Zoe, so young, so naturally beautiful, she felt a pang of something she didn't want to admit: envy. Zoe seemed to radiate a purity and grace that Vanessa knew she no longer possessed. More than that, it was the way Lily was clinging to Zoe that bothered her deeply. The little girl, who had always been distant with Vanessa since their separation, now seemed to have no connection with her. The sight of her daughter smiling and playing with another woman brought up feelings that Vanessa tried to ignore. "Who's that with Gabriel?" asked Vanessa, finally interrupting Adrian. Adrian looked in the direction she indicated and shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it's someone from his work. Why are you so interested?" "I'm not interested," replied Vanessa quickly, trying to sound nonchalant. "Just curious." Meanwhile, Gabriel led Lily and Zoe to a reserved table near the center of the room. Lily excitedly began chatting with Zoe about the guests and the decorations, while Gabriel watched the interaction between the two with a discreet smile. He knew that Lily and Vanessa's relationship was complicated. Since her divorce, Vanessa seemed more focused on her own life than on building a bond with her daughter. Seeing Lily so at ease with Zoe was a relief for him, but it also made him wonder how Zoe had managed to occupy this space so naturally. "Daddy, can I take Zoe to see the suites on the other table?" asked Lily, holding Zoe's hand. "Of course, sweetheart, but stay close, okay?" He was amazed that Lily hadn't even asked about her mother yet. The two of them walked away laughing, while Gabriel remained at the table. He felt the stares around him and realized that many were still staring at him, some smiles of approval, others looks of curiosity or judgment. He knew exactly what everyone was thinking, but decided to ignore it. Across the hall, Vanessa could no longer contain herself. She left Adrian talking to himself and walked towards Gabriel. "Gabriel?" she said, with a polite smile, but her eyes shining with something sharper. "You came." "Of course, Lily wanted to be here, so here we are. She's gone off to look at the suites on the other side, but she'll be here soon for you to see her," he replied, his tone controlled. Vanessa looked around. "And who is your date?" "The young woman in blue. She's very charming." Gabriel raised an eyebrow, noticing the hint of sarcasm in her voice. "Zoe. She works as Lily's nanny." Vanessa looked surprised, but quickly regained her composure. "Interesting. Lily seems to like her a lot." "Yes, Zoe has been a good influence on her. Something Lily really needed," replied Gabriel, with a tone that Vanessa couldn't help interpreting as a criticism. "Well, it's good to see that you're coming around," said Vanessa, before turning and going back to Adrian. Meanwhile, Zoe and Lily were at the dessert table, choosing sweets and laughing as if they were best friends. A few guests approached, curious about the mysterious young woman accompanying Gabriel. "Are you his girlfriend?" an older woman asked bluntly. Zoe blushed instantly. "Oh no, I work as a nanny for his daughter." The woman seemed surprised, but not satisfied with the answer. "Well, you certainly attracted a lot of attention tonight. I bet Vanessa must be furious." Zoe tried to laugh, but felt uncomfortable. She knew she was attracting attention, but she didn't know how to deal with it. All she wanted was to go unnoticed, but it seemed impossible that night. When she and Lily returned to the table, Gabriel noticed the worried expression on Zoe's face. "Is everything all right?" he asked, as Lily went back to talking animatedly about the sweets. "Yeah, I'm just not used to all this attention," Zoe replied quietly. Gabriel smiled. "Welcome to my world." Zoe laughed, relaxing a little. Gabriel noticed once again how infectious her smile was. He looked away, trying to ignore the thought that began to form in his mind. Across the room, Vanessa continued to watch. She saw the way Gabriel looked at Zoe, how Lily seemed completely enchanted by her, and she felt an emptiness she couldn't explain. For the first time that night, she wondered if she had made the right choice in leaving Gabriel. But before she could delve any deeper into these thoughts, Adrian put his hand on her shoulder. "Come on, Vanessa. It's time to make our toast." Vanessa nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. Meanwhile, at the table, Gabriel looked at Lily and Zoe. He saw the happiness on his daughter's face, something he hadn't seen for a long time, and realized that, despite everything, there was something about the evening that made it all worthwhile. "Lily, you look beautiful," he said sincerely, pulling her into a hug. Lily smiled. "And you, Daddy. You look very handsome too." Gabriel looked at Zoe briefly and smiled. "And you, Zoe. You look amazing." Zoe looked away shyly, but Gabriel noticed the slight smile on her lips, and for a moment, the room, the guests, and all the tension disappeared. The sound of clinking glasses and clapping echoed through the room as Vanessa and Adrian raised their glasses for the toast. Vanessa, in her impeccable wedding dress, smiled at the guests, but behind her smile there was something that only Gabriel from afar could recognize: discomfort. On the other side of the room, Gabriel was sitting with Lily and Zoe, watching the toast with a serene expression. He was relaxed, something that rarely happened at events like this. Zoe's presence seemed to have dissipated the weight he normally carried. "Daddy, can I go talk to Mummy now?" asked Lily, her voice full of hesitation. Gabriel looked at his daughter. He knew how important this was to her, but he also knew how distant Vanessa had become. "Of course, darling. But remember, I'll be here if you need me." Lily nodded and stood up. She took a few steps but stopped and turned around. "Zoe, will you come with me?" Zoe looked at Gabriel, who nodded. She got up and followed Lily to the center of the hall, where Vanessa was surrounded by guests. When Vanessa saw her daughter approaching, her smile faltered for a brief moment, but she soon regained her composure. "Hi, Mom," said Lily with a shy smile. "Lily, I'm so glad you came to see me," Vanessa replied, but her tone was distant, almost formal. Lily looked at her mother's dress. "You look very beautiful in a bridal gown." "Thank you, dear. You look beautiful too. This dress is perfect for you." For a few moments, silence hung between them. Zoe, standing next to Lily, could feel the tension in the interaction. Vanessa glanced quickly at Zoe, and her smile became even more forced. "Who knew you'd make friends with the nanny, Lily? You seem to like her a lot," said Vanessa, in a tone that couldn't completely hide her bitterness. "Zoe's my best friend," replied Lily, without realizing the intention behind her mother's comment. Before Vanessa could reply, Lily grabbed Zoe's hand and said, "Come on, let's dance." Lily ran to the dance floor with Zoe, and when she got there, she called Gabriel. "Daddy, come and dance with us." Gabriel laughed and got up, following them to the dance floor. The music, light and lively, filled the room, and soon the three of them were dancing together, laughing and spinning around as if they were the only ones in the room. The guests began to notice. The trio stood out for their genuine joy, something that contrasted with the sophisticated but chilly atmosphere of the party. Some people whispered to each other, smiling, while others just watched in silence. From the corner of the room, Vanessa stared at the scene with narrowed eyes. She clutched the glass of champagne in her hand, trying to keep her composure. Every laugh from Lily, Every glance from Gabriel to Zoe was like a knife turning in her chest. He did it on purpose, Vanessa muttered to herself, feeling a mixture of anger and insecurity. Adrian approached, putting a hand on her shoulder. "Is everything all right?" Vanessa faked a smile. "Yes, of course, just watching." But inside she wondered if she had lost something too precious by leaving Gabriel. On the dance floor, Gabriel was lighter than he could remember being in years. He twirled Lily in the air while Zoe laughed, and for a moment he completely forgot where he was. He realized that without Zoe, this night would have been a nightmare. When the song ended, Lily, still laughing, ran to get a glass of juice. Gabriel and Zoe stood side by side on the dance floor watching her. "Thanks for coming tonight, Zoe," said Gabriel with a sincere tone. She looked at him in surprise. "I appreciate it, but you didn't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. Without you, tonight would have been unbearable. You turned everything into something perfect." Zoe felt her cheeks flush and looked away. Gabriel's sincerity disarmed her in a way she didn't know how to handle. "For you were amazing too," she replied, with a shy smile. Gabriel looked at her for a moment longer than necessary. There was something in his eyes, something that made Zoe's heart race. She felt a shiver run down her spine when Gabriel reached out and touched hers. It was a small, almost casual gesture, but the electricity between them was undeniable. They both stood still, as if the world around them had stopped. Neither of them said a word, but the touch of their hands said more than anything they could express. Gabriel took a deep breath and finally broke the moment. "Shall we go? I think we've had enough of this party." Zoe nodded, lacking the confidence to speak. Gabriel called Lily, who was still busy chatting with other guests, and the three of them left the hall together. The journey home was uneventful. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, tired from the day's emotions. When they arrived, Gabriel carried the girl to the door, but Zoe insisted on taking her to her room. "I'll take care of it. Get some rest," she said, carefully taking Lily in her arms. Gabriel watched as Zoe climbed the stairs with Lily, feeling a warmth he couldn't explain. Zoe put Lily to bed and arranged the covers around her. The little girl sighed in her sleep, a small smile still on her face. Zoe smiled back and stayed beside her for a moment, admiring the child's tranquility. When she left the room, she found Gabriel leaning in the hallway waiting. He looked at her, and Zoe felt the same shiver as before. "Thank you for looking after her," said Gabriel softly. "It's what I do with the most love," replied Zoe, trying to hide her nervousness. The two were silent for a moment, but Gabriel's gaze was too intense to ignore. He finally broke the silence. "Do you want some tea before bed? I feel like we have more to talk about." Zoe hesitated but nodded. "Sure." They went downstairs together to the kitchen, where Gabriel put the kettle on to boil. The conversation started off light, with the two of them recalling funny moments from the evening, but the tone changed when Gabriel looked at Zoe again, this time more seriously. "I can't thank you enough, Zoe. Ever since you arrived, everything seems different, better." She smiled, still shy. "I just try to help." "You do more than that," he said, taking a step towards her. The silence returned, but this time it was filled with something else. Gabriel approached slowly and Zoe felt her heart race. When their faces were just a few centimeters apart, Gabriel hesitated for a moment, as if to give her a chance to back away. But Zoe didn't move. Finally, he kissed her. The touch was soft at first, almost hesitant, but it soon deepened. It was as if months of tension and unspoken feelings had finally exploded in a single gesture. When they broke apart, they were both out of breath, but neither seemed to want to pull away. "Zoe," Gabriel murmured, his voice hoarse, "I never thought it would happen, but now I can't imagine anything different." Zoe looked at him, her eyes shining. "Neither can I." And at that moment, everything seemed right. The morning at the Hayes mansion started out calm, but charged with something that Zoe and Gabriel couldn't ignore. After the kiss the night before, the world seemed different. Zoe woke up early, still feeling Gabriel's lips on hers and trying to process everything that had happened. Gabriel, for his part, was in the kitchen preparing coffee, something he did rarely, but that day it seemed appropriate. Lily came running down the stairs as always, excited and full of energy. "Daddy, Zoe, are you awake? I want pancakes." Zoe came down soon after, her face flushed and her gaze a little shy as it met Gabriel's. He smiled but didn't say anything. He smiled but didn't say anything in front of Lily. The morning went quietly, but they both knew they needed to talk about what they were feeling. Later, while Lily was playing in the garden, Gabriel found Zoe on the balcony. He held 2 cups of coffee and offered one to her. "We need to talk," he said, his tone soft but firm. Zoe nodded nervously. "About last night?" "Yes. And about what comes after?" She lowered her gaze, playing with the rim of her cup. "Gabriel, I never imagined something like this would happen. You took me in, gave me a chance when I had nothing else. And Lily, she brought a light into my life that I didn't even know I needed." "You brought a light into ours too," Gabriel replied, his voice full of sincerity. "Zoe, I don't want you to feel pressured, but I need you to know how much you mean to me, to us." Zoe's eyes filled with tears. "Gabriel, I feel the same way, but my life is so complicated. I still have to sort things out with my father. I can't just pretend that none of this exists." Gabriel took her hand. "You don't have to sort anything out on your own. I'm here. I always will be." Zoe smiled, and Gabriel felt relief run through his body. They were about to kiss again when the sound of an approaching car caught their attention. A black car parked in front of the mansion, and a tall, imposing man got out. Zoe froze. It was him, her father. Gabriel frowned but kept his composure. He took a step forward, as if instinctively wanting to protect Zoe. The man, with an impeccable suit and a serious look on his face, stopped at the foot of the steps at the gate. "Zoe," he said, his voice firm, "we need to talk." "Dad, what are you doing here?" asked Zoe with a mixture of surprise and nervousness. "I wanted to see you with my own eyes. You never answer my calls, and your messages are vague. And now I find out you're here, living as a nanny. Zoe, this is no life for you." Gabriel stepped forward. "With all due respect, sir, but Zoe is living exactly as she chose, and frankly, she's being amazing." Zoe's father narrowed his eyes at Gabriel, but before he could reply, Zoe intervened. "Dad, stop, I'm fine. For the first time in a long time, I feel fine. Gabriel and Lily took me in when I had nothing. They're my family now." "Family?" repeated his father with a tone of incredulity. "Zoe, you're my daughter. You belong in your real home with your real family." "No, Dad, that's not true," replied Zoe with tears in her eyes. "Ever since Mom died, that house stopped being a home. You turned it into a stage for parties and excess, ignoring everything it stood for. I couldn't live there anymore, and I'm not going back." Her father remained silent, clearly impacted by her words. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Zoe, I'm sorry if you felt neglected. I never wanted you to suffer. I just didn't know how to deal with the loss. I'm not perfect, but I'm still your father. Everything I do is with you in mind." Zoe looked at him, her expression softening a little. "I know, Dad, but I need to find my own way. And here, with them, that's where I want to be now." Her father looked at Gabriel and Lily, who had left the garden and was now watching the scene, holding Zoe's hand. He finally nodded, seeming to accept his daughter's decision. "It's okay, Zoe. I'll respect your choice, but please don't disappear again. Stay in touch." Zoe smiled, relieved. "I promise." After Zoe's father left, the atmosphere became lighter. Gabriel, Zoe, and Lily spent the rest of the afternoon together, playing in the garden and laughing like a real family. When night fell, Lily was exhausted. Gabriel carried her to her room, but this time he put her to bed himself. He sang a soft song until Lily fell asleep, a small smile still on her face. When he left the room, he found Zoe waiting for him in the hallway. He looked at her for a long moment before saying, "You were amazing today. I'm so proud of you." Zoe smiled, feeling her heart race. "Thank you. I don't know if I could have done it without you." They went downstairs together to the kitchen, where Gabriel prepared tea. They talked about the day, laughing and recalling the most tense moments, until the conversation became more serious. "Zoe, I know it all happened so fast, but I feel that you're part of it now, of our life, and I don't want that to change." Zoe felt the tears welling up again. "I don't want it to change either. Gabriel, you've given me something I thought I'd never have. A home of peace and love." He held out his hand and she took it. The touch was warm and comforting, but also charged with something deeper. "Zoe," he began, his voice low, "you know that Before he could finish, Zoe leaned in and kissed him. This time, There was no hesitation, only certainty. The kiss was soft, but full of passion, as if they both knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. When they broke apart, Gabriel looked at her with a smile. "I think that was the perfect end to the day," Zoe laughed, leaning her forehead against his. "I think it's the start of something even better." And for the first time in a long time, they both felt that they were exactly where they were supposed to be. Did you enjoy this exciting story full of twists and turns? If you want part 2 of this plot, leave us a comment. Part 2. We want to know what you think should happen now in the lives of Gabriel, Zoe, and Lily. Will Zoe's father try to bring her back? Will Vanessa cause more conflicts? Or will new challenges arise for this trio that has won our hearts? Oh, and don't forget to leave a like if you loved this story and want more content like this. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss anything new. And now take the opportunity to watch the video that appears on the screen. We're sure you'll love it. See you next time.